Hey everybody, Jay Widener here. Reality check. Reading from the book, A Monument to the End of Time, with my late friend Vincent Bridges, co-wrote it. And today we are on chapter 8, section 5, Earth Under Fire, the double catastrophe revealed. Tell all your friends to listen to all these shows because very revealing. Okay. We met Dr. LaViolette at a conference in Boulder, Colorado. He was scheduled to talk about his Beyond the Big Bang theory, which, because of its suggestion of a possible scientific model for the alchemical process, was of interest to us. We also knew that Dr. LaViolette had determined the importance of the galactic center and had speculated on the nature of the catastrophe that ended the ancient global culture. However, we were shocked to find that in the course of a 90-minute presentation, Dr. LaViolette solved the problem of Fulcanelli's double catastrophe. Riveted to our seats, we've listened as Dr. LaViolette ticked off one after another of our remaining problems. Why was the galactic cross alignment of Leo Aquarius and Scorpio Taurus so important to the builders of the Henday Cross and the Gothic cathedrals? Dr. LaViolette shows how this pinpoints galactic microwave hotspots, and the ancients used this information to assign planetary qualities to the signs of the zodiac, the first coherent explanation for a very esoteric system of attributions. However, did the ancient scientists know the exact center of the galaxy? Perhaps it was much brighter because it was actively erupting, and so on. By the end of the lecture, we were limp and somewhat in shock. Dr. LaViolette's new book, Earth Under Fire, suddenly became the book of answers, and the questions of Fulcanelli's warning attained a new level of significance. What had up to then been speculation on an esoteric version of eschatology became a specific cataclysmic scenario with none of the vagueness of disruptions in the orgone flow or galactic equator field reversals. Dr. LaViolette had penetrated the alchemical mean to its core and seen the double catastrophe pointed out by Fulcanelli and the cross of the Henday. Earth Under Fire opens where Beyond the Big Bang left off, with an examination of the Zodiacal cipher in the sky and its warning of a galactic core explosion. Dr. LaViolette points out the significance of the four fixed signs, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio, and how in the rearranged creation pattern, these are the only signs that retain their location on the ecliptic. He notes that Leo and Aquarius, which are opposite each other in the zodiac, quote, appear to be indicating a temperature polarity in space, unquote. He points to the traditional attribution of the Sun to Leo and Saturn to Aquarius as indications of this temperature gradient. He goes on to discover that the attributions of the planets to the signs and the planets to parts of the body also follow this temperature pattern. Dr. LaViolette speculates that, quote, since the lore of astrology redundantly encodes essentially the same Leo Aquarius temperature bias using entirely unrelated sets of symbols, planets and body parts, we are led to conclude that these symbol systems are being used to call attention to the temperature gradient featured on that both share. This is truly amazing when we consider that the microwave background radiation coming from deep space has precisely this kind of temperature gradient running across the heavens from the hot pole near Leo to the cold pole near Aquarius. It's almost as if there was a microwave sun in the direction of Leo. However, the UC Berkeley team that discovered this temperature gradient in 1977 concluded that it was produced by the solar system's motion towards the region of Leo. Because of our system's orbital motion around the galactic center and the galaxy's bulk motion through space, we are moving towards Leo at a speed that is 12 times that of our orbital motion. The precessional rising of Leo on the equinox then becomes a measure of alignment with the motion of the galactic spin. But what of the Scorpio-Taurus alignment? Dr. LaViolette argues that the symbology of Scorpio and Sagittarius not only locates galactic center, but pinpoints it as the place of continuous matter energy creation, and therefore the possible source of catastrophic energy outbursts, the sting, as it were, of the Scorpion. Since galactic outbursts have been speculated on since Edwin Hubble demonstrated that spiral nebulae were actually distant galaxies, in the 1960s, evidence emerged suggesting that the core of a galaxy could shine brighter than all of the stars in the galaxy itself. Called Seyfert galaxies, after their discoverer, Carl Seyfert, some have been known to shine more than 100,000 times brighter than the center of our own galaxy. On average, 1 in 5 to 7 galaxies are observed to be Seyfert types. Astronomers have come to realize, Dr. LaViolette tells us, quote, that galactic core explosions occur in all spiral galaxies, even in our own, and core activity and that the majority of galaxies that have normal appearance with no sign of core activity are simply galaxies whose cores happen to be in their quiescent phase. The statistics suggest that a galaxy core resides in the quiescent phase about 80 to 85% of the time. It spends the other 15 to 20% of the time in an active state, with eruptive episodes lasting from hundreds to several thousands of years, unquote. In this sense, galaxies go on and off like the blinking lights of a Christmas tree. The current black hole model of the galactic core has difficulty accounting for these explosive episodes. Black holes consume matter and rarely eject it in an explosive burst as seen in Seyfert galaxies. Even a naked singularity, a rare black hole capable of emitting radiation, would be hard-pressed to match the energy output of Seyfert galaxies or quasars. Dr. LaViolette points out that these modern radio astronomy observations of the galactic core region reveal an object that acts more like a massive, quote, mother star than of a black hole. The collapsing gravitational force which causes a black hole seems to be balanced by the outpouring of newly created matter and energy from within the supermassive star body, as predicted in subquantum kinetics. This model also predicts that the balance could at times become unstable, resulting in an explosive discharge of energy from the supermassive core. Something this basic, a galactic core explosion, in the relatively recent past, should be easy to confirm with our modern astronomical instruments, and indeed we find plenty of evidence for recent galactic core eruptions. Astronomers have found that gas clouds are moving radially outward from the galactic core like smoke rings from a central explosion. A lumpy cloud of molecular gas 5 light years out from the galactic center shows signs of a massive disruption in the last 10,000 to 100,000 years, as if the central 5 light years had been swept clean of interstellar dirt by an explosion. Further out, around 10 to 20 light years, astronomers have found a literal smoke ring of oxygen-enriched gas propelled outward by a galactic core explosion. Less than 50,000 years ago. Even further out is a cloud of molecular gas expanding outward at the rate of 150 kilometers per second. Astronomer Ian Oort estimated that it would take the force of 100,000 supernovas to propel the gas cloud out from the center core of the galaxy. This suggests that the microwave background radiation through which the sun is traveling in the direction of Leo was caused by the explosive waves of cosmic rays and gas clouds from galactic center. Suddenly, the ancient cross of the fixed signs makes perfect sense. 1. Scorpio Taurus indicates the flow of the radial superwaves from the core explosions, and the other, Leo Aquarius, indicates our solar system and planet's angular momentum to that flow. Our Bahiric philosopher's stone and the cross of Henday demonstrates these principles on a symbolic level. Dr. LaViolette's galactic explosion hypothesis can be summarized in 4 broad points. 1. Periodically, the core of our galaxy enters an explosive phase during which it generates an intense outburst of cosmic ray particles equivalent to several million supernovas. 2. These outbursts recur roughly every 10,000 years or so and last for several hundred to several thousand years. 3. Some type of cosmic ray particles generated in a core explosion, the electrons and positrons travel radially outward as close to the speed of light. Others, the protons, lag behind the electron front and are mostly absorbed by the magnetic fields in the magnetic nucleus. 4. A supernova of cosmic ray particles passed through the solar system toward the end of the last ice age, injecting large amounts of cosmic dust into the system. This dust affected the sun and substantially affected the climate on Earth, bringing on the sudden end of the ice age. The galactic superwave, composed of super hot cosmic ray particles traveling at close to the speed of light, would appear from Earth as a brilliant blue-white spot of light about the size of Mars in Sagittarius, surrounded by a slightly larger and less bright halo. This source, perhaps as much as 1,000 times brighter than any other star, would be visible even in daylight. Dr. LaViolette equates this new sun with the Hopi legends of Sasquatch, the blue star spirit, and the Egyptian legends of Sekhmet, the all-destroying Eye of Ra. It will remain in the sky as the second sun, or the sun behind the sun, for as long as a millennium, as a herald of catastrophe. Although the energy of this outburst is enough to affect electromagnetic systems on Earth and produce weather changes, the real danger is the effect on the cloud of cosmic dust surrounding our solar system. According to Dr. LaViolette, the superwave will push massive amounts of dust into our solar system with disastrous consequences. This cosmic dust storm would begin to cause problems as it entered the solar system. At first, the cloud of dust would block the sunlight and make the Earth's surface very cold. Soon, however, a new problem would begin as the Earth cooled rapidly. Astronomers have noted that there are stars affected by large amounts of cosmic dust falling onto their surfaces, called T-Tauri stars. As the dust falls onto the surface of these stars, it becomes heated and causes the skin of the star to brighten. This dust eventually forms a cocoon around the star, which holds in the heat and causes the temperature of the sun's corona to rise rapidly. Thus, this heating causes huge solar flares to appear on the surface of these T-Tauri stars. LaViolette postulates that the same event occurred with our own sun when the galactic dust storm arrived soon after the blue star. As this dust gathered and finally settled on the surface of our sun, it would also cause the sun to heat up, producing massive solar flares into the surrounding space. This solar activity and these flares would soon begin to have an effect on the weather here on Earth. After the initial cooling period brought on by the influx of dust, the sun would suddenly become very hot. A cocoon of cosmic dust and hot gases would gather around the sun, causing huge solar flares. It is possible that the superheated corona could increase in this state until it overwhelmed our planet. This solar bubble would heat up the Earth, causing tropical latitudes to become unbearably warm, and the ice flows in the north and south polar regions to quickly melt. Lakes of fresh water that had been trapped in the polar glaciers would unleash their content. These glacier waves would race down from the north and south polar ice sheets and drown and destroy all life in their deadly path. This is Dr. LaViolette's explanation for the end of the last ice age. Thousands of animal corpses have been found frozen in the wilderness of Alaska and Siberia. They seem to have been deposited there about 13,000 years ago at the end of the Pleistocene era. Hundreds of thousands of these animals died suddenly and inexplicably, including woolly mammoths, giant tree sloths, Arctic foxes, and many others. Thousands of their corpses have been found locked in the frozen glaciers in river bottoms in Siberia and Alaska. These bodies are distributed in such a way as to indicate that they died from a violent influx of water. The bodies were then flushed down the rivers, collecting in gullies and ravines until they were frozen in the cold that would return quickly after the bubble of hot gases from the sun disappeared. Hundreds of species did go extinct at the end of the last ice age, of that there is no argument. With astronomers openly admitting that galactic core explosions are highly probable, LaViolette's explanation is difficult to argue against. LaViolette is saying there is some proof of a catastrophe in the past that nearly destroyed all life on our planet. He is saying that the catastrophe was of a double nature. The initial outburst from the galactic core caused electromagnetic shifts on Earth, which may have caused crustal torque, pole shifts, tidal waves, and high winds. This first catastrophe was followed sometime later with an explosion of the sun's corona caused by the influx of cosmic dust pushed by the galactic superwave. It was, in fact, just as Fulcanelli said it would be, a double catastrophe. In one fell swoop, Dr. LaViolette had answered many of the questions that had haunted us as researchers. Amazingly, Dr. LaViolette had never heard of Fulcanelli and knew even less about alchemy. He was a true modern scientist who wanted empirical proof for any thesis. He had spent 30 years proving the very same information that had been engraved on the cross of Henday. Perhaps the most convincing of all Dr. LaViolette's evidence is the importance provided by the radio contour map of a supernova remnant in Cassiopeia A. This map, compiled from information published by astronomers Dickel and Greason, clearly shows the expanded wavefront of the supernova impacting the galactic superwave. This distortion shows clearly in X-ray images, indicating a tremendous output of energy from the superwave shock front. This also suggests that the galactic superwave might even be a factor in making a star go nova. It is indeed hard to argue with the evidence such as this. Dr. LaViolette backs up his hypothesis with ice core samples and cosmic dust counts, including the 1993 Ulysses spacecraft results, which conclusively determined that the cosmic dust is currently entering our solar system from the direction of galactic center and reaches the same conclusion as the cross of Henday. A double catastrophe happened 13,000 years ago, and then a little bit later, caused by an eruption of cosmic ray energy from the center of the galaxy. Fulcanelli and the cross suggest that a catastrophe is about to happen once again. Ice core samples show that galactic superwaves pass through our region of space once in about 26,000 years, or one complete precessional cycle. The galactic core explosion may be, in fact, the mechanism through a type of gravity wave that produces the precessional effect, the tilt of the planet on its axis, as Wilhelm Reich predicted. Although Dr. LaViolette steers clear of an exact prediction for the next superwave from galactic central, he does suggest that there might be a connection with the coming precessional alignments with galactic center. He points to the many prophecies that indicate our immediate future as one of change and upheaval. However, the reality of the double catastrophe, which he depicts, is firmly grounded in hard science, from ice core samples to radio telescope observations. Whenever it arrives, it will indeed be the end of our life as we know it. Understanding this, our attention was drawn back to Fulcanelli's promise that the inscription on the cross of Henday pointed to a place of refuge from the double catastrophe. We found that Henday did indeed point to a place of refuge, perhaps one from the last catastrophe. We also found that Henday identified the only reasonable location for Atlantis. the center of the last global civilization. These discoveries will lead us to the final truth about alchemy, Fulcanelli, and the Great Cross, both of Henday and the galaxy. I don't. That's the end of the chapter. I don't believe that the Henday Cross points to Atlantis anymore. I'll explain that in the next chapter when I read it, the place of refuge. But I also think that the galactic explosion could be true. And it does explain how the sun would heat up and cause the explosion. And if you look at the cross of Henday, and if you could see through it, so the angry sun face has that bright star behind it. So that would be the double catastrophe. First, the bright star is the explosion from the center of the galaxy. And then as the dust came and enveloped the sun, caused a T-Tauri explosion, which caused solar flares and a massive plasma strikes and everything here on Earth. So I do want to bring up, though, that I know this theory of the end of the ice age is at variance with, say, Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson's view of a comet coming and causing the Younger Dryas, and then 1,500 years later, a solar flare occurs and ended the Younger Dryas. I don't know if Hancock and Carlson believe the latter part, but they believe the comet. However, the same evidence that you would find to prove that there was a comet strike 13,000 years ago is actually the same evidence that you would use to find if there was a galactic explosion, a superwave coming through. It would bring the same space debris through. So no matter what, both could be proven with the same evidence. So I don't know which one is proof. I do know that the galactic superwave is the more elegant solution to what happened to us, that what caused the Younger Dryas and then what ended it. Because the galactic superwave pushes the dust into the solar system, causes global cooling, everything gets cold. So we go into the Younger Dryas, and after a few hundred or thousand years, enough dust falls on top of the surface of the sun to cause electrical discharges and a buildup of heat until boom, it explodes. And we know that T-Tauri stars exist because we've observed them all over the place, and they're caused by dust. You can see the dust coming in, surrounding the star, and then the star explodes. So that would, LaViolette's explanation explains why the sun exploded. A few hundred years, 1,200 years after the dust cloud first came in and cooled down, whereas the comet theory doesn't explain how the Younger Dryas ended, because the comet's not going to have any effect on the sun. So again, it's all up for grabs. We do know that something happened 13,000 years ago to cause the Younger Dryas, and we know that something happened that ended the Younger Dryas. So there was two catastrophes. We know that. We not know the nature of them, but we know the effect of them was the Younger Dryas, and then the rapid ending of the Younger Dryas, causing massive flooding all across Washington State and really everywhere, down through the Great Plains, and as the glaciers melted, overnight almost. Anyway, we're getting really close to the end, and we got 2 or 3 chapters left to go. And I'm Jay Widener. This is Reality Check, and we've been reading from A Monument to the End of Time, and talking about Paul LaViolette's theory on Earth Under Fire. And by the way, I did a documentary in 1997 on the book Earth Under Fire by Dr. LaViolette. It's up on Gaia, called Earth Under Fire. I wrote and directed it, and I was so blown away by the lecture when I saw it that he'd explained the double catastrophe, that I kind of became friends with Paul, and then I kind of insisted on making the book into a documentary. It's pretty good. I like it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Jay Widener. This is Reality Check, and hit like and subscribe and tell your friends, and thanks for watching.